Good day, everyone. My name is Vince Gelman, and it is lovely to be with you, and it is lovely to make another video here in this very sacred forest that I love to visit here in Vancouver on the west coast of Canada. So I invite you to consider that there is a ancient intelligence, a primordial intelligence only found in darkness, only found in darkness. It's not found in light, it's only found in darkness. There's a holding intelligence, a gestating intelligence, a nourishing, unraveling, expanding, birthing intelligence that is only found in darkness. Now we can think of a good example with seeds planted in the earth. They're planted in the soil. They're planted down in the dark, wet soil. And what nourishes those seeds, what breaks those seeds open, what blossoms the intelligence in those seeds is not just the soil, the physical soil, and the nutrients of the soil, and the water in the soil, but the intelligence of darkness. What if it's more than the physical structure surrounding the seed, permeating its shell, but the darkness itself that births the intelligence, births the potential in that seed? It's the darkness itself that brings that seed to its full potential, its full life. What a beautiful thought. I find that to be a beautiful thought, that the darkness itself is necessary and that it has its own ancient intelligence, its own ancient holding, birthing wisdom. We can obviously think about a mother and her womb. And we were in physical form and as a soul inhabiting the body, we were born in darkness. We were born in the darkness of our mother's womb. Now, obviously, there's the role that the intelligence of the womb at a physical level. There is the heartbeat and the relationship between the heart and the physical structure of the child. The intelligence of the heart and the physical structure of the womb. There's the love of the mother. But I invite you to, again, think of the darkness of the womb as having an ancient, primordial, gestating, nourishing, unraveling, expanding, birthing intelligence that is not found in light. What about us as souls? Well, we were born in what Kaya Ra, in her astounding book, the Sophia Code, what she calls Sophia's black womb. And I resonate with that completely. We were born as souls in Sophia's black womb. Now, Sophia is another name for the Divine Mother, God. Sophia actually means wisdom in Greek. So we as souls came from the holy, sacred ground, the still 0 point of Sophia's black womb. Everything emerged from Sophia's black womb. The first ray of light, which is a pearlescent ray of light, pearlescent white ray, emerged from that black womb. And then that ray, that pearlescent white ray, exploded into a multiplicity of colors, an infinite array of colors, of rays, violet, sapphire, emerald, all celestial bodies, all light emerged from Sophia's black womb. Everything emerged from the womb, and everything shall return and be reabsorbed back into this very holy place of nothingness, which is simultaneously everything at once. The still 0 point, that is peace. Sophia's black womb. So Sophia's black womb, the womb of the mother, the physical mother, the womb of Mother Earth, there's darkness there. We are born in darkness. And so that darkness is there's something, again, it's ancient, it's primordial wisdom that just knows how to raise, how to give birth. And I just find that beautiful, and I wonder if you've ever thought about that before. And isn't it strange that certainly in Euro-Western societies, in modernity, in modern culture, there's a fear of darkness. We associate darkness with negativity. We associate darkness with death. And of course, that is our greatest fear, is death. And I think we fear darkness and we fear death because we have lost touch with the ancient societies that knew how to initiate their people, knew how to initiate their youth through rites of passage and through a confrontation with death. I read a book one time called Of Water and the Spirit by Malidoma Somé, an outstanding book, and he is from, I believe it's Burkina Faso in Western Africa, and his people, his traditional people, are called the Dagara people, and they would take their youth at around age 13 into the bush. They would take them out for these 6-week initiations, and one of the things that they had to do, what they had to endure, was to be buried in the ground up to their neck. And this was their encounter with death. Because that's what really the initiations are about. It's bringing people to a great encounter with death. And so the body is submerged in darkness. Of course, not the whole body, because it needs to breathe. In ancient Egyptian mystery school traditions, the final stage would be conducted, the final stage of the initiation, of an arduous process of initiation, would take place in the Great Pyramid. And after a number of tests and trials and ordeals, the initiate would be ready to be placed in a sarcophagus in the Great Pyramid, in a chamber in the Great Pyramid. I don't know if that's the king's chamber, but it's likely it is. But they would be placed in the darkness in the sarcophagus of the Great Pyramid, and that would be the final stage. And there, in the dark, they would have their encounter. They would have their encounter with death. And so the sarcophagus would represent death, but it's also a representation of the womb. And the chamber itself within the Great Pyramid is also a womb itself. And so the sarcophagus is a womb within the larger womb of the chamber within the pyramid. And you can think of the pyramid itself, the whole pyramid, as a womb in the womb of life. And the person buried in the ground, they're buried in the heart, in the womb of Mother Earth. And so in each of these situations, the initiate would be left there for a long period of time. And they would be put in a position where they could surrender to darkness, surrender to death, and in that be reborn anew into higher dimensions of their soul. They'd be birthed into the light. And so the seed breaks open, it struggles through the darkness, and it births into the light. And what's fascinating about a lotus flower is that it rises through the mud, comes from the darkness of the mud. But what's easily overlooked or forgotten is that it also then travels through water. And then it emerges through the water. So it's through the mud and then through the water. And so the water could be like a cleansing. It could be like a baptism before it births into the light. And I find that to be another beautiful metaphor or symbol. And so dark gives birth to light. Sophia's black womb gave birth to all of us. The dark soil gives birth to plants. We as humans are born in the darkness of our mother's womb. And what if right now in the world, in this collective dark night of the soul that we are in, we are being birthed in a particular type of ancient intelligence? We are in the birth canal right now, and there are labor pains indeed. There are labor pains indeed. We feel them. There's loss, there's powerlessness, there's hopelessness, there's confusion. There are all these adverse reactions to the vaccine. People with cancer, Bell's palsy, myocarditis, foot-long blood clots, destroyed reproductive systems. People are going through immense suffering right now, immense loss. And I do not in any way discount the difficulty of their journey. And it is a rite of passage. It is not simply that they are losing their life, but they are being reborn in the intelligence of this dark night, or this many dark nights, but you understand what I mean. They are being born anew through this dark night, and they are being born anew the only way they can, which is through darkness. You see, we want to hold on to the life of taking kids to soccer practice and watching sitcoms and going to the pub and going on boat trips and going to work and hanging out with friends and having a glass of wine. But we don't want to go into the dark. We just want to hang out on the surface. But we don't want to go down and into the dark. But life takes us there through illness, through loss, through uncertainty, through confusion. For me, I went, for 9 years. I've gone through so much difficulty in my life, but around 2009, I started having all these incredibly complex, difficult, confusing, mysterious, undiagnosable physical problems. For one of the physical problems I had that lasted 5 out of those 9 years was that every time I spoke, I got very, very sick, very sick. No one could figure out what it was. That was just one thing. There was many, many things I went through. At the time, I didn't understand the significance of everything I was going through, but it was a rite of passage. I was being born anew, but I had to go through darkness. I had to leave the world I once knew. I had to leave the world I once knew. I had to be plunged into a birth canal that lasted a long time, and it had many, many labor pains. And so someone who has adverse reaction from the vaccine, someone who loses their job that they were happy and successful at, someone who loses their health to some degree, while my heart goes out to you, while my heart goes out to what you're going through, because I know what it's like to suffer with physical problems. It is not enough to simply say you were a victim, because it's much bigger than that. You are being removed. You are being removed from society. You are being removed from normal. You are being removed from the routines that you were comfortably in. And you are being plunged in darkness. And on the periphery of what was, on the outside, on the margins of what was, where you suffer, where you spend more time alone, where you are more in your own space, you have the opportunity to turn inwards and to hear something that you could not have heard before, because you were caught up in normal. This is your rite of passage through darkness, and there is intelligence in the darkness. As hard as it might be to understand when you're suffering and when you're in pain and when you're shaking and you feel nauseous, there is a holding intelligence. Just like there's a holding intelligence in the soil, and there's a holding intelligence of the mother's womb, and there's a holding intelligence in Sophia's womb. There's a holding intelligence, an ancient holding intelligence in the darkness that you are in, that is birthing you anew, that is gestating you, that is nourishing you, that is guiding you, that is unraveling you and expanding you and bringing you to new life, into what you came here to experience and to who you truly are, that could not have been discovered if you stayed in happy, successful, normal. You know, I was once struggling with how much suffering there is in the world. I have wept so much considering how much suffering there is. How many children are abused, the torture, the imprisonment, the homelessness, the poverty, the oppressive regimes of North Korea and Saudi Arabia and China. I've wept. My heart has broken time and time again, thinking about what people go through. And one time I called upon one of the ascended masters I work with, whose name is Kuan Yin, and who I work closely to. She's very dear to my heart. And I said to her, Kuan Yin, and I was thinking about homeless people. I said, Kuan Yin, how can there be so many homeless people? How is it that a loving God could allow so many people to be digging through dumpsters, begging on the street, shivering cold? And then she asked me a very penetrating question. And she said, who's more free? A corporate executive or a homeless person? Who is more free? A corporate executive or a homeless person? And in that moment, my perspective changed from seeing victimhood to seeing possibilities. Let us remember that the wise one, the sages and the saints, generally live on the periphery of society. They live on the outside. And the sages and the saints, the wise ones that have been here, do not teach us how to become better economists, how to become, better politicians. They don't come here to teach us how to be more successful in the world. What their message ultimately is to transcend the world, to leave the world, but also to be a bodhisattva and return and to come back and be of service to the world. But we serve the world to the degree that we detach from the world, that we extract ourselves from the world, that we leave the world. And that's what these ancient mystery school traditions and these ancient rites of passage in tribal societies, that's what they're doing with their initiates. They're removing them from society. They're taking them away. So they hear something that they wouldn't have heard if they were busy and distracted in everyday reality. And so now in a vision quest, this initiate is sitting at the top of a mountain with no water and no food and no shelter. And on the 4th day of 5, they hear the voice of God within their heart who tells them something life-changing. And that forever changes their heart, changes their whole idea of who they are, their whole idea of life, and they bring that wisdom, that elixir of wisdom, back to their community, and they serve from that. They serve from their exalted self. From an exalted state that was born in darkness, that was born from being removed from society, from being placed in the darkness of uncertainty, the darkness of privations, the darkness of powerlessness that initiations ultimately bring us to, because it's in our powerlessness that we confront letting go, that we confront surrender, that we confront our greatest fear, again, death. And in confronting our fear of death, in surrendering in that sarcophagus, in surrendering in the earth in which we are buried, we move through that birth canal and we come out the other side into the light. We pierce the soil and we are born anew in light, but we are born through darkness. Darkness births us. The intelligence of darkness, just like spring follows the winter season. Right? Spring follows the winter season. Spring follows the dark night. And so we have our own winter seasons that season us. And we are now in a global one, a global winter season that is seasoning us. And it's not easy and it's not meant to be easy. But there's ancient primordial wisdom in this season, just like there's ancient primordial wisdom in winter. And we are here to give ourselves to that season, because spring is around the corner and it is coming. The break of dawn is coming. The golden age is coming. It's not that we are going to succumb to global totalitarianism. We are not destined for that. But we must give ourselves to darkness. And the dark ones, the dark overlords, the globalists are playing a role, obviously, in initiating us through darkness. They are playing a role. And yes, they must be called out. Yes, they must be named. Yes, they must be held accountable. But isn't it funny that they're also being initiators? They're initiating us into darkness, through darkness, and into the light. They are bringing in the privations. They are bringing in the loss. They are bringing in the destruction of normal. They are removing us from society. They are initiators. They are removing us from society by breaking down society. But they are also giving us the chance to leave what ultimately we don't want. Because the world will never give us what we want, ever. Only an open heart can. The world will never, ever give us what we want. Only an open heart can. And so they are here to break our hearts open through this dark passage, through bringing us into this dark passage, through removing what we think we want, which is sitcoms and boat trips and nights at the pub. We don't want that ultimately. We want to awaken to light. We want to awaken to love. And so they are playing a divine role. And again, yes, they must be named. And I've done that. Trust me, I've done that if you know my work. But paradoxically, they're bringing in the light because they're bringing in the dark. And in that darkness is that primordial, sacred, ancient intelligence that is here to birth us through this collective dark night of the soul. It is our destiny to be born anew, but we must have faith in this ancient intelligence. We must have faith in the darkness, that it is seasoning us, that it is holding us, that it is unraveling, expanding us, that it is birthing us, that it has wisdom to it. What if we saw darkness that way? What if we honored darkness that way? What if we loved darkness? What's possible then? So thank you so much for listening, and I have upcoming online healing and activation ceremonies. I'll put a link in the description. Please check out my free ebook, A Global Crucifixion. I'll put a link in the description. The subtitle is truth, heartbreak, and humanity's heroic ascension into a golden age. Please share, subscribe, like, comment. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you when I see you.